Elsewhere, Shankaracharya says, this body I am not, the sense organs I am not, the mind I am not, the intellect I am not, the ego I am not. I am the witness of all of them. I am the consciousness. I am the very Shiva, the auspiciousness, Ananda. That's what I am. So satsanga. When we entertain the company of the wise people, then this kind of perception is given to us. A different dimension of the life we are exposed to. Satsangatve, nissangatve, nirmohatvam, the moha, the delusion slowly starts going away. Nirmohatve, nischalatatvam, what the tattva is, what the truth is, we gain a certain conviction about that. That's how we get liberated. Nischalatatve, jivan mukti. So Bhaja Govindam teaches us also what we should be thinking about, how we are all deluded in the wrong because of attachments and wrong perception, how what is false is given reality by us and what the true nature of reality is. Artham anartham bhavaya nityam nasti tadastu kalesha satyam. Says Shankaracharya, artham anartham, understand that this wealth, name, fame, recognition, all of these doesn't give you any even iota of happiness. In fact, they bind you more and more. As our Swamiji says, what is progress? Progress is converting luxuries into necessities. What is happening to us is what was luxury, say 10, 15 years ago, has become a necessity today. A cell phone has become a necessity. An iPad has become a necessity. A laptop has become a necessity. Air conditioning has become a necessity. We don't even know how slowly and slowly the luxuries are converted into necessities, meaning that we are becoming more and more needy, more and more dependent. That's the direction of the life in which we are going. So what is spirituality? Spirituality is converting necessities into luxury. What is samsara? Converting luxuries into necessities. As we feel more and more hollow inside, we need more and more outside. But as you live a life of right values and attitudes, as you discover a satisfaction inside, your needs become less and less, and what are the necessities today start becoming luxuries to you. You understand what I am saying? They are reversing the process. Meaning that your needs become fewer and fewer. More satisfaction you discover from yourself, less and less are your needs, and less dependent you are on the worldly objects, and more free and independent you become. What is luxury? Luxury is if you have it, well and good. Don't have it, okay. What is necessary? You cannot do without. But as we become more and more self-sufficient, we become less and less dependent, less and less needy, and what was the necessity becomes a luxury. And our Sudhirabhai talked about this Chitta Prajna, who is ultimately a wise person for whom the whole life is luxury. Everything is luxury. Luxury means everything is a source of joy. So this is the kind of vision that we get when we entertain the company of the wise people. Therefore, this satsanga is talked about 3 times in Bhaja Govindam. Satsangatve, nissangatvam once. Then, Tri Jagati Sajjana Sangatereka Bhavati Bhavarna Tarane Nauka. So in all the 3 words, the satsanga, the company of the wise, is one boat which enables you to cross the ocean of samsara. And Geyam, so Geyam Gita, Nama Sahasram, Deyam Sripati Rupam Vajasram, Neyam Satyana Sange Chittam, Satyana Sange Chittam Neyam. 3 times he talks about satsanga. Very beautiful composition. And we just want to give you some highlights of what this Bhajagovindam talks about. It is too wide a topic, to talk about in one talk. I want to give you some highlights of what Bhajagovindam talks about, so that you are inspired to read the book on Bhajagovindam, all the talks on Bhajagovindam, or learn more about it, and be benefited from the teaching of Shankaracharya in the book. With that, I conclude my discourse here. And if there are questions you have, you can ask the questions. The next session we will continue with question and answers if you have, before we conclude. Do you have a cordless microphone?
I will be passing the mics for question and answer sessions. So
you mentioned about company of good people, but what I find many times is that society puts goals in front of us, whether it is for, and they are not even for personal achievement, they may be for social achievement or social upliftment and so on. That it seems to be a luxury to take time out for satsang and for personal sadhana and so on. So this is, I think this may be a question of others also, at least I have this question.
The question is that the society places upon me so many goals that I do not have time for my personal growth. Is that what you are saying?
Such as satsanga and so on.
But then, if you do not grow, how can you serve the society? If you yourself are not, you see, in order to give something to somebody, you must have it in the first place. For me to give some charity, I must have money to begin with. For me to serve the society, I must have the skill to serve the society. I can't just serve because I want to serve, but I must have something to give to the society. Is it not so? So unless I first acquire, how can I give to the society? That is why we take time out. For example, the first 25 years were considered brahmacharya ashrama. They were the time for study, so that you equip yourself to live the life. And the study also goes on lifetime. And therefore, you have to take time out for yourself, for your own. If you don't take care of your body, the body will not help you. Don't take care of your intellect or knowledge, you don't keep up with the things. For example, in the field of medicine, the doctors have to appear for the board exams every 10 years. Every year they have to also put in X number of hours for what they call continuing education. Do you know that? The need, therefore, for a personal growth is recognized by the society also. So we have no excuse in saying that I have no time, Swami, for exercise. I have no time for food. I have no time for myself. And I keep on serving. But how are you going to serve the society if your body does not cooperate with you? If you don't have the knowledge, don't have the skills, how are you going to serve? For uplifting other people, we must have lift. When can you uplift? When you are lifted yourself first, then you can uplift. Isn't it? And therefore, we have to find time. It's a matter of managing our time.
any question answers? Having said that, Guruji, and on behalf of Dwarka Mai, we want to say our heartfelt thanks, our best wishes, regards to Sri Guruji for coming here, devoting their time, spending the blissful time with all of us, and downpouring us, bestowing us the wisdom of knowledge on all of us. Actually, as a part of our gratitude, we would request Sri Nadkarni ji to felicitate Sri Guruji with shawl, Shrifal, please. We request Sri Guruji to kindly accept our heartfelt welcome to them. Thank you so much for the time and the blessings. We also want to convey our warmful thanks, heartfelt thanks to Sri Sudhirji Parekh from Bhuban Satsang Center, as well as Sri Atulji Shah for coordinating this event and bringing us this blissful evening. We would be more than happy next time, in future, anytime you need any assistance from Dwarka Mai, we as a team of volunteers, we would like to always give our helping hands toward any good cause you would come up with. Thank you so much everyone for your time coming here today and blessing us up. Thank you so much. Okay, we have one comment, so we'll just pass the mic.
Guruji, I have a question. In Gita, chapter 18, I think sloka 60, Krishna says to Arjuna, Arjuna, this body is yantra, is driven by the laws of nature, Prakriti Jalavis. And you are just on it riding.
What is it? You are what?
You are just riding this yantra of a body. And you will do what your nature is going to force you to do.
Oh, that's the third chapter.
18th chapter, verse number 60. And the verse number 59, 60, 61.
Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat swanusyatat. But what you are saying is said in the third chapter, Prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyate. All the beings follow their nature.
I'm talking chapter 18.
But what is that verse?
Chapter number 18 and verse number 60.
You tell me what the verse is.
Unfortunately, I don't have Gita.
But what you are translating is not clear at all to me. From your translation, I don't recall what verse you are talking about.
स्वभावजेन कौन्तेय निबन्ध स्वेन कर्मणा कर्तुं नेच्छसि यन्मोहात् करिष्यस्य वशोऽपि तत्.
Okay, alright. So here, is that what you mean? Is that the verse in your mind?
No.
No. Lord Krishna says, Yadahankaramashritya nayotseti manjase mitchesha vyavasayaste prakrtisvam niyokshari. Here Arjuna, I have taught you these 18 chapters and also describe to you what is the importance of karma. And I have told you how to perform the karma. Yadahankaramashritya. But if, because of your ego, nayotsiti manjase, if you say that I will not fight, because of your ego, you say, I know what I have to do. I don't need your advice. I don't need your teaching. I know what to do. And therefore, if you will not follow what I am telling you, and out of your ego, you still can decide that you will not fight the battle. Mitchesha vyavasayaste prakrtisvam niyokshari. That decision on your part of not fighting will prove to be wrong because your nature will control you. Svabhavajena kaunteya nibaddhasvena karmana kartum nechasi yanmohat karishyasya vashopi tat. That because you are controlled by your own nature of Kshatriya, and therefore you have a fighting nature. See, Kshatriya is a person who cannot stand any injustice. Moment he sees an injustice, he will plunge and he will resist that injustice. So that is the nature you are born with. And therefore, even if you decided that you will not perform an action, you will wind up performing the action, your nature will control you, your nature will dictate you, and therefore your resolution that I will not fight will prove to be wrong. Is that what you meant? No. Give him the Gita so that he tells you what the verse is.
Is it 60 or 16?
Now you give him the classes also.
It says, the Sarvbhutanam Desh Arjuna Tishtati
Ishvara sarvbhutanam hruddeshe tishtati brahman sarvbhutani yantrarudhani maya. Is that what you mean?
Yanta Yurani Maya. Yes.
So what is the question?
My question is, if the whole body is a yantra on which our consciousness or our Atma is just riding, he said, that's you are doing, you're just riding over it. But this yantra is working under its own rules of Prakriti. So therefore, we don't seem to have that much of a freedom to make decisions when body is working on its own.
No, it's not the body. Okay, please sit down.
It says,
Ishvara sarvabhutanam hruddeshe Arjuna tishtati. Here Arjuna, Ishvara resides in the heart of all the living beings. Brahman sarvabhutani yantrarudhani maya. Like a merry-go-round, like a machine, or like a roller coaster, which throws you from one place to the other. Similarly also, Ishvara actually, through his Maya, actually guides you and revolves you from birth to death, in the cycle of birth and death. So here the point is that Ishvara is the one actually who guides everything. That's the idea. Ishvara sarvabhutana hruddeshe Arjuna tishtati. Here Arjuna, Ishvara resides in the heart of every living being, and it is he who guides everything. So the point is, if Ishvara guides everything, where is our free will? Is that the question? Is that your question?
Yes, it's mechanical.
Do we have any free will or not? This is the question. Is Ishvara making all decisions for us and he makes us ride, this life cycle, or do we have any free will? So in the Bhagavad Gita, different decisions are, different inquiries are made, different considerations are there. At one point it said that your nature guides you. Other point it said Ishvara guides you. But Ishvara has given us a free will. And therefore, Ishvara guides us all right, but not totally. We still have the freedom. Ishvara has given the human being the freedom to choose his own attitudes, choose his own values, choose his own responses. What Ishvara does is create a situation before us, and how to respond to the situation, that freedom we have. So there is free will and destiny. So destiny does not decide everything. Destiny creates the situations for us, and we decide how we respond to those situations, and that much freedom we have. We don't have the freedom to control the situation. We have the freedom to control our attitudes. That much freedom we have. Any other question?
We have a question again. Can we have the mic, please?
Switch it on first.
So my question is if, so there is this saying that to err is human, to forgive is divine. And, but from what I understand, that if you do wrong actions, like if your karma is not appropriate, then there is no forgiveness. And so once you make an error, you basically have to bear all the consequences. Repentance and trying to rectify things may not ultimately, work. Is that a true statement, even though they say that, to forgive is divine?
The question here is that as human beings we perform deliberate actions using our free will, and therefore we are accountable for what we do. The good begets good, the evil begets evil. Meaning that if we perform good actions, noble actions, then the result is accordingly. If we perform evil actions, then we have to suffer the consequences. So we are rewarded for the noble actions we perform. We seem to be punished for the evil actions that we perform. Understand that what is punishment is pain. The result of the good action is happiness, and the result of evil action is unhappiness or pain. But the pain that comes to us need not be looked upon as punishment. The pain can also come to us to help us to grow. And therefore, we do not look upon pain as punishment from God. We look upon that as an opportunity to grow. So yes, it is true that if we perform evil action, that there will be pain in our life. But that pain is not a punishment. The pain is to teach us something, so that we do not do that again.
Any more questions we have?
Yes, may I, can you hear me all?
Yes.
Yes. May I, in the same line, I'd like to ask you this question.
Give me the microphone.
This whole creation is created by Bhagwan or God, and everything that we see in this universe is His creation. to run this creation, he has Atma into all these bodies to do the acts of right and do the acts of the universe. It is his creation. He has put Atma into the beings throughout the universe. Why should it be the problem now of Atma to get out of this mess when he created it and he should automatically give it?
He has given something for you to do also. That's all. Otherwise, what is there to be done? You will not even be born if there was no problem in the life. So that challenge has been given to us. It is like a puzzle. Why do you create puzzle? It's a challenge. So also we are born here with a challenge to become liberated. And for that, whatever necessary requirements are there all given to us. We are given an intellect, we are given a heart, we are given the free will, we are given the body mind, we are given all the equipment required to do the right thing and become free. So rather than worrying about why, use your time properly. Don't keep on wasting your time and asking questions why. What what should be the question? What should I do? Gautam Buddha said that if you are hit with an arrow, don't waste your time in asking who sent the arrow, what's the material of the arrow, what kind of poison has been used there. Don't do. Pull out the arrow and heal the wound. Similarly also this question, why is it created, all the waste, is a waste of time. And that does not, even if you know why, still you do what you have to do anyway. And therefore do what you need to do. Bhaju Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. That's what you have to do.
I wanted to ask you that if there is one God and He loves everybody, why did He create everybody different? Like somebody is very rich, somebody is very poor, somebody is very intelligent, somebody is not. Like they say, somebody is dark, somebody is fair. Why did He create all these differences if everybody is equal in His eyes?
But you'll get bored if you are all in the same mold, So its variety is good. It takes all to make this universe.
Do we get only, like if I'm born a human being now, with my next generation, am I going to be a human being again? Or they say in the Sikh religion, they say that the human being, whatever form you're going to get it after so many years. You don't get it all the time. It's very precious and you get it after so many years. So is that true?
You get what you deserve. And therefore we have to deserve. If you live like a human being, you'll become a human being. If you live like God, you'll become God. If you live like dog, you'll become dog. So we build our own destiny. That's why the free will has been given to us. And so we choose our own destiny. God facilitates. He facilitates everything. He's like an architect. So you want a 5-bedroom house. Architect doesn't decide how many bedrooms you should have. You decide. He'll design it for you. So every house is different. Why? Everybody has different desires. No two houses are similar because everybody desires differently. And so we desire differently, therefore God, I told Ishvara, I want this body. He says, okay, take it. I want this mind, take it. So meaning that what I have is what I have asked for. So if you regret what you asked for, then now you can change the course. Suppose you feel that, oh God, I don't have what I like, I should have something different, then now ask for different. And do deserve before you desire. So deserve what you want. And that's the whole idea of Bhaja Govindam.